Thank you so much for coming back to join us. I'm Huang, Design Education Manager at AIGA. I wanted to let you know that we have our national staff members joining us in this final session as well, including Benny F. Johnson, our Executive Director, and Ashley Axios, our AIGA National Board President. Thank you everyone this week for participating in Slack, here on Zoom, and watching the videos on YouTube. And thanks to all of our presenters and panelists. And we've had over 1,100 registrants for this conference who are tuning in from all over the world. So be sure to check out the map if you haven't already, or pin yourself if you haven't done so already, to help us see how global and diverse this conference really is. To my knowledge, this is the biggest and most diverse AIGA Design Education Conference we've ever seen. I also hope that you've had a stimulating and nourishing week with all of the online content and conversations. I know it can sometimes feel like drinking from a garden hose, full of all of the content, conversations, and insights that you're trying to make. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, to take your time to get caught up on the videos if you missed anything live, or even if you were there live, to revisit them and see if you might gain something new. I know I feel like I've seen a lot already, but I want to revisit some of the things I've seen. One of the key words that I've heard over the course of the week is vulnerability, a word that has come up time and again. So I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable myself and say that I have to admit, it's almost an impossible task to try to summarize and connect the dots on all of the different conversations and presentations that we've heard from. So I don't think I can do this justice, but I will give some highlights to try to tie things together, and then we'll turn it over to our community panelists to hear their perspectives as well. So in the full 3 days of the conference, or the 3 full days of the conference, we had different themes. On Tuesday, it was teaching, Wednesday, research, and yesterday, Thursday, was focused on community. And our panelists and roundtable participants addressed topics ranging from the future of the design classroom to how to conduct research in an age of physical distancing. We heard time and again about the importance of self-care and different ways to address the needs of our students beyond the classroom, beyond the Zoom room, and thinking about empowerment in those different ways. We were also challenged to rethink and expand the quote-unquote canon of design history, and maybe to even move beyond the idea of canon itself. We learned about what decolonial design is and what it is not from our panelists on Wednesday. And I'm sure I'm already leaving out other amazing panels and discussions in my shout outs and synthesis here, but I just want to make sure that we have ample time to hear from our community volunteer panel. So a few more thoughts from me, and then I'll set the stage to turn it over to them. So shift. Turning back to the name of the conference, this word shift is a word that we can interpret in different ways. First, as a noun or as a past tense verb, the world has shifted in the last few months, shifted in disruptive, sometimes revolutionary ways even, and in many cases difficult and painful, challenging ways. But it's also opened up new possibilities. For example, I'm not sure we would have even thought an event like this possible a few months ago, to organize something online at this mass scale, just because it's so different from what we've done in the past. And maybe not something we thought would be desirable or that people would even show up, but 1,100 plus of you have proved us wrong, so thank you. It can feel like we're trying to make sense of chaos right now, whether it's our immediate task of preparing for online or hybrid blended instruction for the fall, or navigating the necessary but difficult topics like building equity and inclusion, continuing to decolonize our design practices, which by definition do not have clear how-to checklists, and our ongoing processes. When we were going through the naming and branding process, as a quick aside, we were going through the naming and branding process for the AIGA podcast, which is now called Design Future Now. one of the proposed names, and I don't even know if our panel here of organizers knows this, but one of the names that we had in the mix before we arrived at the current final one was Total Shift Show. And that's a bit of a scatological pun here about the chaotic shifts that we find ourselves in. But to come back to us and you and what we're doing, the world needs design and design educators more than ever, as our role fundamentally is about organizing information and making meaning more accessible and more participatory. So we can also look at this word shift as an imperative. The world has already shifted around us, and now it's on us to shift, to change, to adopt, evolve. And while the title of the conference Shift is in the singular, we can also think about shifts in the plural, because we all come from a variety of different backgrounds, teach in a variety of different contexts. And while the only way forward is forward, there are a multitude of ways to do so and a lot of experimenting to do as we go forward. And that really depends on what we're doing in our own communities. And then finally, for me, the word community has also been a theme that's come up time and again, both as the theme of yesterday, but also kind of bookending the conference on Tuesday. We had the roundtable on empowering students and building community through virtual critique. And then every day with our virtual happy hours and mixers. And so that has been a theme, and this is something we've been experimenting and learning from as well, organizing a conference of this kind. So we hope to continue these conversations, continue building community, whether it's on the Slack group that we've created, the AIGA Design Educators Facebook group, on our social media channels, and in future events and gatherings. So those are just some initial thoughts for me to kick things off. I'd like to now bring on our panelists from the community: Danilo, Puya, Jenny, Roshanik, Patricia, Jeannie, Christina, Phil, Sudebi, Lisa, and Lisa. So we'll stop the screen share so we can see everybody in larger format, and I'll turn it over. I'll just go down in this order, or we can popcorn this as well. Why don't we turn it over to Danilo first to hear a few minutes of his reflections.
Hi, thank you, Lishan. Well, I was moderating day one teaching in the roundtable for teaching on Slack channels. Thanks so much for that opportunity. I think this summit came in exactly right time for all of us, just to remind us that we are not alone in all of this, and to remind us that we are part of such an amazing, dynamic, and diverse community that we can count on. Like without this, I don't think I could have survived preparations for the fall, like many of us that are going and still going through with school starting in just 2 weeks. I was just amazed with the engagement of the community on the channel and in Slack and in YouTube. I think we had over 330 views of the first human-centered design education video on YouTube. And I'm like a numbers person, so I was like keeping track of all the roundtables for the channels. So I was so pleased to see over 170 people participating in the Teaching the History of Graphic Design roundtable, which is amazing for the first day. I mean, I don't remember having to share a room with 170 people at the previous conferences for design. More is no more had 120, which is such an amazing number for the first day. For the second panel, fully knowing that for most people that panel was happening during lunchtime. And then we closed the day with empowering students in virtual critiques with over 150 people participating in the live one, and you can just add numbers. So it's just amazing communal support. I also want to take a special time to thank Lisa for this titanic organizations and ever presence. She is all the time on Slack. It's hard to keep track of her. Alberto, for being such a Zoom god, I'm sorry, but your Zoom skills are mad. Lishan, thank you so much for your music. Like Lisa, I'm tuning all the time all around the house with it. It's a little bit brainwashing, but thank you. And then Meaghan and Meena, thank you, and everybody on the DC Steering Committee for organizing this again at the right time for all of us. Thank you for the support and reminding us that we are part of something bigger and something better. Thank you all.
All right, thanks, Danilo. So we'll just go down the list that I was given in order. I'll turn it over to Puya now.
Okay, thanks. Good morning, everybody. It's still morning. Oh, well, no, actually just past morning here. Yes, it was truly amazing. I was just thinking about all this last night, that, you know, how we've stayed so true to the meaning of the naming of the conference, the idea of shift. And although I've kind of seen conversations in different conferences in the last decade or so about, you know, moving forward and, you know, and next phase and shift and things like that. But I think based on the content that was provided, and like we just heard, the support that now we know we have, I think shift is a reality and it's going to stay and it's going to affect all of us. And we all I think we all can feel encouraged to engage in shifting all aspects of our teaching, our content, and I almost want to say our lives, but definitely at the very least our approach to design education. And I think just design education overall has been kind of operating under a modus operandi for so long, just because there's been no alternatives. We're just kind of happy to kind of stay afloat, considering all the changes that are happening in technology and society and everything else. But I think with this support group and knowing that this is what everybody's feeling and we're all sharing databases and resources and approaches, I'm really looking forward to how the shift will actually happen from here forward and being part of this wave. And thank you for everybody for everything you've put together and the content you've shared. I'm still trying to catch up with all the conversations that are happening. I'm glad the Slack channel is going to be there forever at least, or at least for a long time, and give me a chance to catch up with everything.
Thanks so much, Puya. And next we have Jenny.
Oh, is that me? Hi. This is my first conference, and I started teaching last year, and it's just amazing to see the amount of engagement from all of the participants and just how helpful and resourceful everyone is. I'm also very grateful for the Slack to be maintained. I think the biggest problem we're going to run into is where are we going to be able to house all of the amazing resources that everyone is sharing. But I think that is just a testament to the amount of help and support that this community is serving. And I'm so grateful that there's a online space for us now that we can come together all at once and just like raise our hands up and be like, yes, we're gonna go at this and we're gonna do it together. And I think that's amazing and very beautiful. So.
All right, thank you, Jenny. Next on my list, we have Roshanik. Turn it over to you. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you all for creating this community that was very much needed. And I was also so glad to see that the response to the panel that we put together for the Global History of Graphic Design with a lot of participants and a lot of contributors. And the chat as a conversation is still going on, and the need for inclusive history of graphic design. These were different points that the participants brought in with them. More resources beyond what is there, collective effort for putting together archives and timelines so we can cooperate and collectively create a more relevant history of graphic design for our students. And also considering our students and their backgrounds and what we can offer them and what they can offer us. So the platform, Slack platform was really helpful. A lot of communication and great resources were shared. And I hope that it continues so we can learn from each other and our students can learn from us. It was great. That's all I can say. It was a wonderful experience.
Thanks so much, Roshanik. Next, I'll turn it over to Patricia.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Let me put my visual on also. Sorry, I came in a little bit late. I was on the One Club seminar. There have been so many incredible things this summer, and it's one of the great things about about this situation. I've met so many people that I would not have met. Really, really interesting people. Some of it has been just through answering someone in chat, or saying, I like that, and starting a dialogue. And I think that is one of the great things that this offers to us, this format, and that everyone is recognizing. I mean, this being able to keep a record of all of these suggestions in one place. And I met Ilio at, I think, a conference 2 weeks ago. I think we were in San Francisco at the time. We've started to put together a vessel of sorts for all of this information that we can be sharing. Everyone has given so much good information, but I think what comes out of that and what continues to grow is what this thing has really added to me and a lot of educators. Things are changing so much in our profession. They have been for years, but they've really, a lot of it's come to a head. Everything from how do we teach design to what's our history and whose history, and really doesn't matter. I've heard people say things that I so agree with, things that I'd never heard before or thought before. I've heard people say things that I thought were maybe going a little bit too far. And I love that challenge. Haven't ever had such a great challenge in my professional history, and want to keep it up. So thank you everybody who contributed to this.
All right, thank you, Patricia, for your reflections. Now I'll turn it over to Jeannie.
Hello. So this was my first conference, virtual conference as well, and I am beyond impressed at how well organized it was, the virtual tools we used, what seemed like so effortlessly, and the communication, Alberto and Lisa, just incredible, incredible communication. I don't think there was a moment I was confused about, anything. So our group had the research track, and we got together. We had never met, so that's another silver lining of the shift that's happening. The fact that our group was actually put together the way we were and across different time zones and different disciplines. I happen to be the only practitioner within the three of us. And it put us into an environment to explore not only the title shift, which I was also very attracted to, and one of the reasons why I wanted to participate in this conference. We are all shifting, but we started to explore that, by shifting definitions of time, scale, context. We talked about ethnographic research being stalled, but then also other silver linings, like if field research is solved, we have access now than we ever had to data sets, something that I don't think was as available as it is right now. And as a design professional, time, scale, and context play a very valuable role in how I work. I assume, and including my collaborators, felt that even in a post-COVID research world, students' work could be framed within that context. So I really hope this was meaningful for everyone who attended our event, our particular track. And just a few closing thoughts aside from a huge, heartfelt and generous thank you to Alberto, AIGA, and Lisa for an incredible summit. I feel like our current events, given our context, which has shifted, we need positive and radical change, which I felt like was under the umbrella of scale. Our idea of scale has also shifted. I think radical optimism is probably something to look out for. And resilience being the crucial thing, I guess, going forward. And thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Jeannie. Now we'll turn it over to Christina. You're up next.
Hi, so hard to add to all the wonderful things that have been said before. So I'll add something that also stuck out to me, which was this supportive community who openly talked about mental wellness and asked, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And getting those honest answers. Well, sometimes I'm good and sometimes I'm not, and balancing those things. And it's so refreshing to be a part of a community, especially a professional community, especially an academic community, that acknowledges not only that work that we do in a supportive way, but also supports kind of the balance and the mental wellness for us and for our families and for our students. And I really appreciate all of that focus coming in a professional environment. So necessary.
Thank you for that reminder, Christina. Next up, we have Phil.
I've mostly been able to connect with Liese and Alberto because just through their emails and Slack, but I know there are so many actors behind the scenes that I haven't been able to cultivate a relationship with. And one of them I know is Huang, who went live with AIGA during the Shift conference. So I just can't imagine like how many hats you guys are like constantly switching between and managing all of the responsibilities of things happening synchronously and asynchronously. So props to you guys for that and for pulling off an amazing conference. I think vulnerability has been a big piece. I've also been thinking about what in Shift has been the difference for me compared to any other conference. And for me, that was empathy. So I had a seat at my table where I invited people, and I also had a seat at each of your tables in your workspaces, in your libraries, outside on your porches, right? So having these conversations, and what would normally be, if you think about a conference in a cushy hotel with a chandelier, there was no lobby, there was no neutral space. We were all intimately bound in these living inside, outside spaces in our homes. And that created a connection that I think was incredibly authentic and a differentiator between any other conference experience I've had. So empathy was big for me. We've also talked a bit about each theme for the day. How will teaching shift? How will research shift? How will community shift? And one that I just want to create space for right now is how will you shift? How will I shift? So thinking about all of the relationships we've built, the resources that we've bookmarked. I know I have 100 tabs open right now. What is the next step for us that will create meaningful change for our lives and our practice and our philosophy, our beliefs, the way that we walk this earth? What are we going to do next? How will we shift? And so I want to just give you a moment to think. And I also am reminded now of Mauricio Mejia from Arizona State University gave me a great idea about writing and how writing, like design, is a kind of synthesis. And this is a way that we can extract some of the gems of a conference experience. So thank you all so much. And thank you for giving me a bit of voice time here. And I'll pass it on to the next person.
All right, thanks, Phil. That next person on my list is Sudebi.
Hi, thank you so much. I think I must admit that shift came to my life at a time when, after 5 months of being at home, and it's sort of interesting that I came back, I'm based out of India, and I came back from the Philippines and Singapore and was locked. And realized in the last 5 months that, I do get to travel a lot due to the different kinds of work that I do, that in the, till September 2021, there are at least 7 countries that I can't go to because I had work in all those countries and I can't go, and everything has become virtual. So anything virtual in some way sort of makes me feel so suffocated and claustrophobic. Oh my God, yet another thing. And also that in the last 5 months, I have been a part of many innovation jams as a facilitator or designer, or, I've also taken part in at least 4 or 5 different conferences where I spoke. And even after all of that, I found Shift to be such a welcome change. It was absolutely, I never felt that I just don't want to be a part of it at all. And I think the difference was because there was a genuine interest in sharing and listening. And I genuinely felt that I feel so connected to so many of you, although we have never met, maybe we'll never meet, who knows. but the authenticity of sharing, the authenticity of caring, and like many of us are talking about vulnerability, I think everyone was really okay to show their vulnerabilities. They were okay to be vulnerable and to also accept and acknowledge that others are vulnerable too. And I felt that that honesty is something that really touched me. It really created that connect. And that's a shift, I would say, that, through online medium, a lot of times people feel that there cannot be a connect. So I was thinking, how I would say my experience has been, and also my co-lead for the roundtable that we had facilitated yesterday, Elena. And I felt like, there's a book that I really like and I often go back to. It's called Place and Space, Perspectives of Experience. I might be saying it wrong. It's by an American Chinese geographer. And there is a particular line in that book that really speaks to me. And it says, place is security, space is freedom. We are attached to one and long for the other. And I feel that that's probably the struggle that all of us are facing. We want to have the place and the space. We want to be secure and yet want to experience and create freedom. And I think as design educators, this struggle is where we are. So like yesterday, we were talking about in our session that we realized that we're constantly, dwelling in between two sides of a duality, and there is nothing right and wrong about it. There is no point in constantly lashing ourselves thinking, oh, how good it would be if things would go back to how it was. There is no point in saying this is what I aspire or we wanted it to be, but just to be. And I feel like this space really created that authenticity. It really created a space where we could unthink, we could unmake, we could undo, and really focus more on feeling and being. And I think for me, that's real wellness. And I really want to appreciate all of you for giving us this opportunity. And there was such genuineness yesterday, such generosity in sharing, and I feel like I feel really overwhelmed and really blessed that I could be a part of it. And from both me and Elena, who's not there right now, from our end, we would like to take these conversations forward. And like we said, we wanted to collaborate on creating a mission statement for design educators post-COVID. And any of you, if you want to take part in it, we are more than happy to co-create with you.
Thank you so much, Debbie, and I hope folks who are listening take you up on that invitation. Next, we have our first Liese Mayon.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning and good evening. Oh my gosh, everyone said some really amazing things, but Phil and Debbie, I'm still sort of fluttering from some of the things that you've said, so I'll do my best to add what I can. First, again, to underscore, thank you, Alberto, thank you, Liese, and thank you, Ali. All of you have been such wonderful connectors, and I'm so thankful to have been part of so many of these conversations these weeks. Like a few takeaways or a few things that I'm thinking about. One is these connections between these days that we've had between teaching, research, and community. I couldn't help but see so many intercrossing conversations and thoughts. So for us to maybe continue making more of those connections and to make them deeper. So both defining and co-defining such important terms, be it diversity, decolonizing, inclusivity, equity, and also defining what we mean when we say mental health and wellness and care and kindness in our classrooms. One thing that has been touched on by many of the speakers today has been just how wonderful this conference has felt. I think one thing that I found particularly lovely has been the coincidences that even in this space we can still some equivalent of running into a friend of a friend, some equivalent of sort of seeing someone that you've seen years ago. And, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, we're losing that, but maybe not. Maybe we still get that. And that the joy of those coincidences, and for us to keep creating spaces so that we can be surprised by what feels like maybe very constructed or structured times and spaces. So for each of us to do that for each other as well as with our students. The digital resources abound, both for us and all of us in this space now, and so much that we can pass on to our students, and so many of whom are sort of sprinkled in amongst us, but so much that we can share, and so much that we've already been sharing, but so much more that we can exchange and give on. This idea of searching better, looking better, digging in better, and to be vulnerable better. I keep thinking about these things as it relates to community and what makes community feel like community, what makes research feel like it's worth and weighted, and what makes teaching sort of the thing that we all sort of come together through and love. And one of the things that we all have we all have in common: to teach and to learn, and to learn to learn. So thank you for all of you for contributing so much to these days. I hope we can all keep ruminating on all these run-ins and spaces, and that nothing that all this is we're making a lot of seeds, and thank you all.
Thank you so much, Liese. It looks like the other Liese on my list is not here right now. If that's not true, please do jump in. But we do have a few minutes now to open it up to the community at large. This is a Zoom meeting, so you should be able to just unmute yourself or start talking, or I think the raise hand works as well, or you can type something and let us know. So opening up the floor.
I was going to chime in. Hopefully my internet will sustain. It's raining where I'm living, which means my internet might go out. I just wanted to say the methods of delivery from this week and the conversations, the breakout rooms, the way that everything has been open for us all to discuss and participate has basically, I feel like it's just given me hope that I will be successful this fall, even though I feel very concerned about starting up this semester. So I just want to thank everyone for participating.
Thanks so much, Ryan. I saw your hand, Camila, if you want to unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to continue the message of appreciation for opening up this space for all of us to be here. It almost makes me feel like I'm getting more than I do when I go to in face-to-face conferences, in the way that this feels a little bit more permanent and long-term than a lot of conference feel, because it seems to be like opening the space for this to really be ongoing, and we're using all the tools to help that happen. I'm also very appreciative of listening to so many voices that echo a lot of my own concerns. You know, being an academic, sometimes one of the few designers in a department can feel a little bit lonely, and trying to, you know, do your writing or publish what you want to write about, but it's sometimes difficult to understand where the people that share the same concerns are at. So I'm so happy that I'm able to, you know, see some faces and understand what is like the larger community looking like, and hoping to be able to come back to this community as needed. And one question, can we do like a call for submissions, or if that's something that's happening later? Should I hold off?
I'm seeing Liese, did you say 1 minute, or go ahead?
I was saying, just wait. It's coming.
Okay, I'll wait. Okay, I'll wait. So yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Camila. We'll turn it over to Mariam now.
Hi, everybody. I just want to thank all of you, all the organizers. You've done a fantastic job in putting this event together, and it's been very well organized. And I think, as some of you know, that I'm based in Kuwait, and typically this time of the year I'm back in the States. I'm connecting with other colleagues, doing studio visits, or doing these summer design workshops somewhere in the world. But because of the COVID, I feel even more isolated now, just because of the travel bans and not being able to connect. And so before the summit, I was very much in my own cocoon, thinking about how am I going to go about fall semester. And then this summit really made me feel a little lighter, that I'm not alone and there's all of us in the same similar situation. And I want to keep this space as an ongoing, and it helps me a lot to have this community to be able to share and exchange ideas and information. So that's what I wanted to say, and it's been great because I've been reconnecting with some of old friends, met a bunch of new ones, and I really loved your what do you call it? The beginning sessions of getting together and meeting someone new. So it was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariam. All right. Does anybody else want to share anything? I don't see any other raised hands, but you can just go. Oh, Elio.
Yeah. Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I have been thinking why this has happened this way, because I've been in Chicago for the past 15 years, and I have connected with different organizations and tried to, participated in their conferences and attending and volunteering. And I haven't found the same kind of connection that I am finding right now. And I am always trying to find the whys. That's how I navigate, I go through life. And I think it has been because since we are all confined and we are all vulnerable, we are all isolated, we are experiencing similar feelings. So then we all connect and we all want to come here and talk and discuss and exchange ideas. Whereas when we are in our regular lives, as the previous person, I don't remember the name, was saying, is we are more into our own little worlds and we don't share as much. So I hope, and this may sound morbid, but I am liking this pandemic because it's allowing for these connections that I haven't had before, that I really yearn to have. So that was my little explanation of how this has happened. And now I'm having many more people to talk to and resources to share. And then I also want to say that if I can be of any use, please contact me and I'm here. I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Elio. Anybody else? I can only see a few screens at once, so you can go ahead and just unmute yourself if I don't see your hand.
I think I wanted to say something to Elio and to Phil. I mean, everybody else have great things. There's a kind of an intimacy, I think, that people are responding to, and a real connection with like the common human condition, which we right, as Elio said, we get to be in our own bubbles, and then we forget that there's a common thread that runs through each of our lives, even though we're at different scales, that no one is exempt from the human condition. And this is kind of bringing us into, like, it's a real intimacy. You're seeing everyone's sort of homes, their backgrounds, their lives. That's another, I think, silver lining from this. But we're also wired to connect too as people, so.
Thank you, Jeannie. I think Olga had a hand up if you'd like to share.
Thank you. So I would like to thank everybody for organizing it, for participating, and for being so open. And by saying open, I'm saying that it is very different from this capitalistic way of thinking in terms of competition. We're all competitors in some ways. In our institutions, we try to be better than others. We try to instill somehow in students that you will go in this competitive world. And I'm glad that this conference really made a very serious shift in this set of mind. I think it's much more open and much less competitive. And so I think we will benefit much more if we share our achievements, and we all are passionate teachers. And if we share it, we really plant the seeds, and the forest will be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga. Anybody else wanted to share anything before I turn it over to our organizers?
Just add one quick thing. I know I have colleagues as close as parts of Mexico and as far as Iran, and I think they're all in the same mindset and the same excitement and also challenges that we all have. So if we could all reach out through Facebook or however we connect to our colleagues across the world on what happened here and the resources that we're sharing and the conversations we've had, I think it would be wonderful to share this with everybody else as well.
Thanks, Puya.
Could I say one more thing?
Of course.
One of the designers that I've loved always is Ray and her husband, Charles Eames. And one of the things that I like so much about them was their design philosophy of hospitality and giving. They were very much in tune with inviting global designers to work with them. And I think we're kind of getting to that right now. I really appreciate this for that. So let's continue Ray's good work.
Thanks, Patricia. Anyone else?
I would like to just, add a little bit of my input. I was a software engineer, so I'm just trying not to get that too far, but I know that this is not going to be the only time that we're going to face crisis. For the past 2 months, I've been pretty depressed in terms of how are we going to face even more dramatic change that's coming, like automation, how it's going to change how everyone think about, career and all this potential another pandemic, correct? But this conference really gave me such a big hope, correct? Because it allows a framework that actually works, right? We're trying to see more global scales of solution. We're actually pulling people together passionately. And I want to thank my colleague, Danilo Bajic, who kind of convinced me to join this because I was not in the mood of doing anything. He's like, Ma, you should come in. I was like, okay, I'll try it. I'll give it a try. And then I was like, because I just zoom out. If you all know what I mean by zoom out, right? I mean, to have another Zoom, I was like, no, I do not want to stuck on the chair again. But it is so exciting. I cannot believe how much connection I have. I've been to a lot of conferences. I taught for 14 years, not as long as some of you, but I've been to a lot of conferences to know that, it's like boring. Sometimes just like, learn. I can only do this much. But this conference really, like what all of you have said, it make connection in a whole new level and give me so much more hope. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for the, all of you who hosted this, done such a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Zen next. I think I saw your hand, and then we'll have 2 more. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. First, I would like to say thank you, Shift team, for conducting this amazing symposium for a week. Me sitting in one corner of the world, which I could be never part, and I could never afford to come to America to be part of it. And this has made me more nearer to this whole concept of educators. And I have found some amazing, inspiring educators as well, while having in the breakout rooms too. So I'm very grateful for this whole event that happened. And I hope that something like this would happen in the future as well. So if anytime we could not come from our working schedules, this is just awesome. It works very well. Yeah, but would love to meet all of you one day in person as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we have time for 1 or 2 more people. You can go ahead and just unmute yourselves. I'm trying to scroll through all of my screens to see if anyone has anything to say. All right.
I'll chime in to just say, this is Ashley.
Ashley.
Axios. AIGA board member, board president, effective last month. But I'm just so thankful to see such a diverse, inspiring, collective group of people talking about the future of teaching, research, and community, and really practicing what you're discussing as you're doing it. And I think there have been challenges in the past of design educators being separate from practitioners, professional organizations, including AIGA, sometimes having some division amongst these groups, and seeing that interconnectivity between our DEI group, diversity, equity, inclusion, and really fostering belonging and community with practitioners, our global context and audience all coming together to talk about solutions and the challenges of this current moment in time. I think is essential, and also just yeah, just much needed right now. So thank you all for coming together, for making the time. I know there are so many things that you could be doing, and some of you are taking advantage of the multitasking that that COVID has allotted you, which is very fair. But this is an investment, not just in your own growth, but in a collective growth too, as these pieces are in conversations are being spread and shared around. So thank you for contributing in that manner and being so open, and as many have already said, so vulnerable and willing to give of yourselves. And special thanks again for our organizers for volunteering and putting in so much effort to make sure that this ran as smoothly as it has.
Thanks, Ashley. Next week, I'll turn it over to Kelly Walters, and then we'll give it the floor to Liese Zahabi.
I am so excited that this week has been such a success, and I wanted to also echo just to thank Alberto, Ali, and Lisa for really kind of rallying and organizing this and bringing in so many different people to support the conference this week. As a AIGA DC member, I am typically I'm on the side of the communications of things. And so I would say this spring, as we transitioned from being in person to pretty much being online, I think we really are actively trying to seek ways to engage with all of you. And so I say this also, I put it in the chat as well, if there are ideas of different topics or themes in sort of a smaller scale version of what we were able to accomplish this week, we are really interested in and leading out other conversations that can happen going forward. And so if there are ideas for virtual roundtables, if there are ideas for things that you would like to see on the blog or the website, I think that we are actively seeking that ways to kind of extend out what we're offering. And this also extends into the ways that we are able to provide resources in our newsletter. And so we have an awesome communications team, Kalina, Ali, Rebecca, Natasha previously, am I forgetting? And I don't know who else I'm forgetting. I think I named everybody, but we, again, along with the DC members, are really interested in community. And so however we can continue to do that, I just wanted to kind of echo that out from the communication side of things.
Thanks, Kelly. And back to you, Lisa.
All right, so I've prepared a statement that I'm going to read from. So I want to quickly thank everyone who helped to make this event possible, the AIGA national team for their support, the DEC steering committee members who have helped with specific pieces of the programming, and the many of them who joined in on discussions in the Slack and in the sessions this past week. Thank you. I would especially like to thank Meena Khalili and Meaghan D for their tremendous support, encouragement, and help throughout this process. I also want to thank the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force for collaborating with us on this event and helping to create some really exciting and valuable content. And I'd especially like to thank Gabby Hernandez for helping to facilitate that collaboration and really pushing for it, and for creating the session on what decolonial design is not, and for designing so many tasty design snacks for us to enjoy this week, which I've shared on the Slack. If you don't know what that is, just search for those. I also want to, of course, thank my co-organizers and their partners and families for all the hard work that they've put in over the last few months. This was truly a collaborative effort. To be honest, the most open and collaborative project I have ever worked on. And while we all put in a lot of time and work, this has also been one of the most rewarding weeks of my life. Ali Place brought her branding expertise and user-centered design mindset to the team and helped to make this event as open and accessible and beautifully and consistently branded as possible. And he will truly hate this, but I just want to take a moment to recognize Alberto Regao, who is truly one of the finest, most generous, and most incredible human beings on the planet. This event would not exist if not for him, and I never would have agreed to do this if he were not on the team. If more of us could approach our lives with the sense of integrity, generosity, and care for others that Alberto brings to everything that he does, this world would be a better place. Sorry. So finally, I want to thank you, all of you in this community, present here on this Zoom session and listening to the recording later. We built this event for you, for our vibrant community of design educators. And this event was in part built by you. So thank you so much for being a part of this. As we think about all the sweeping changes taking place right now, it's easy to focus on the things that we used to be able to do, or the ways that things used to work. But as we have been discussing all week long, this moment gives us the chance to not only create new ways of doing things, because we must, but to also rethink all those previous approaches and really question their validity, because we should. Conferences serve the community in many ways: to share and disseminate information, to present research and ideas and get feedback from a body of your peers, to swap ideas and tips and tricks. But most importantly, conferences allow us to connect, to gather together, to be present in space with others. Most of us have likely attended physical conferences in the past, and many of them have been truly wonderful. But in this particular moment, we can no longer replicate those conferences of the past. And obviously, as we've all been discussing, maybe that's not such a bad thing. When I look across the past weeks and at the community built in our Slack and the community that we've built here together, I am hopeful that we can break down the hierarchies of those conferences of old, remove the elevation of singular and often the same voices, empower different voices to come to the forefront and share, and really put our trust in this community to help us build from the bottom up a new way of approaching design education, not just in the US, not just for academics at Research One universities, not just for full-time faculty, but for all of us. There is so much to learn, so much to share, and so much to build. We need your help, and we hope that you will continue this journey with us. So, in closing, I would like to announce that we want to create a new kind of proceedings for this summit. We are building a living archives in our Google Drive account that will not only be accessible to all of you, but we are counting on you to help us create it. We want to capture and organize all the amazing things shared and discussed this week. We also plan to do an official call for submissions from and about this week-long event. We will be seeking all sorts of submissions, both formal and research-based, as well as visual expressions, and practical and hands-on submissions. These will be published as part of the proceedings through the AIGA DEC and shared back with the community. To do this, we will need peer reviewers and help, so please look to volunteer your time and expertise if you are able. We will be publishing this call on social media and in the Slack very, very soon. This is a unique moment in time, and the energy within this community is both palpable and incredibly exciting. We need to do our best not to squander it. Please stay engaged. Please reach out with questions or for help. Please share your ideas and resources and join us as we continue to build our future right underneath our feet as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. So final words from Meaghan and Meena. I realized I was on mute.
Sorry. So that's hard to follow, and I think it should have been the last thing. And I'm not crying. You're crying, says George. So and Meena may or may not.
I'm here.
Yay! Okay. So one thing that I just thought was absolutely incredible about this was seeing how we had people from all around the world. I loved those mixers that we did throughout the week, talking to people from India and Sweden in the morning, and then other people who might be 3 hours away later that afternoon. It was just an incredible experience. And so, but beyond that, thinking about the types of educators, from non-traditional and K through 12 teachers to adjuncts, full-time faculty, and also hearing from administrators. There have been some things to already come out of this week. I'm sorry if I'm miscrediting. I think it was Robin Landa who had this idea for a lecture series swap. So if you're interested, you can sign up on the Slack for being guest lecturers for each other. The idea that bringing in different perspectives via Zoom can be quite helpful in your classes. And image credit here to Alberto for creating this graphic. But I wanted to take a little bit of time and talk about some of my favorite moments of the week, although there were really too many. So yesterday during the closing, Rick Griffith shared the Rick Griffith Ginger Crush COVID cocktail. So you can put this all together in any order. So screenshot if you would like to be drinking later on for our final events. But you don't have to drink alone because we're all here. And while this isn't an exact quote, during the research and tenure and promotion discussion, I really liked hearing and Barry and the group talk about engaging and empowering your students. So that's just 2 words I want to sort of take with me as I'm thinking beyond this week. From that, I also liked Bernard's talking about everyone has value. You know, beyond that, thinking about we are all experts at something, but none of us are experts at anything. But there's no right research, and there's no wrong research. And beyond that, thinking like, maybe this isn't the time where you're even considering doing research. Maybe you're just planning for the future. The design history panel, I forgot who started it, so sorry for not attributing it, but everyone just started talking about how they love hugging books, so go hug a book. And Angela in that same session talking about, frankly, I think we should blow up the canon. It's not the whole story. So rethinking how we do things. And to Debbie, again, this is, I'm probably paraphrasing some, but she talked about being included in the discomfort of the moment. So there's something about the pandemic and, you know, the social movement we're in the middle of and all of this, and like, it's bringing us together in different ways, and change is sometimes uncomfortable, but it's also creating that sense of community. So, and well, I always love Kalina, so you should go watch her panel, but really they had a vulnerable and open and lovely conversation about mental health. And let's, as a community and as faculty, destigmatize mental health. So.
Thank you, Meaghan. So while we continue to talk about how we will approach the ways that we'll be teaching this semester and beyond, as we keep hearing for that matter, we're encouraged by this community of design educators to deconstruct, decolonize, and embrace the global view. And as Meaghan illustrated in the map that pinpoints where we all dialed in from this week, our attendees of this conference are reflective of this active need for a global view of design education and of our design educators community. These ideas were brilliantly discussed in the local to global roundtable yesterday. As a community, a global community, we are stronger together. The saying goes, many hands make light work. We have seen a great deal of bolstering in our community this week, which is moving into a network of contributions in virtual spaces through remote instruction support documents, guest lecture exchanges, which has been brought up many times now, and robust conversations about research in our DEC Slack and more. And we've seen other kinds of support. This is one way that this design educators community is so unique and so special. We support each other in what it is to be human. Not only do we support each other's research and scholarly work, we support our humanity in this moment as caregivers, as partners, as parents, and as people doing what we can. Even in our call this morning to discuss this talk, Meaghan and I spoke about how difficult it's been to pause and sit within personally challenging spaces because we're constantly moving, our eyes on the next hurdle. But the reminders we've seen here and there this week from our fellow design educators that simply admit this is hard, there's no answer, but most importantly, we are not alone. The DEC Steering Committee asks that you look for us, connect with us, that you reach out with your ideas, your thoughts about ways that the DEC can keep improving. We've had suggestions from monthly mixers like the ones we've been doing throughout this week's programming, continuing our virtual roundtables, of course, and finding ways to better engage with different types of educators, and maybe even making a group dedicated to doing so.
So throughout this week, we've been joking that Ali, Lisa, and Alberto are octopuses or octopi, or however you say that, because there's no way regular human beings could be doing as much as they're doing. And also, you might not have noticed because she's so much behind the scenes, but Melanie Rios has also been helping a lot. She works in Alberto's studio. So when we all started planning this, I think we thought maybe a couple hundred people, if we're lucky, would be interested in. And so sad octopi, but also really happy that nearly 1,200, and maybe one more person joined since this call started, but 1,200 people coming together for this week is just truly incredible. This group has put their lives on hold, stayed up till the wee hours of the morning, uploading videos and processing them, and then being right back there with coffee just a couple of hours later to make sure that the morning mixers were going well. So I truly will never be able to thank these people enough, but know that your words have meant a lot to them. So this is not just a shameless plug about money, but I do want to say that we have a way of directly donating to the educators portion of AIGA now, and we're grateful to National for allowing that to be available. But we want to do more things like this. We love that this was free and accessible to all. AIGA National was incredible in that they gave us some funding to help upgrade our Zoom because we had a lot more people sign up than we expected, but also to provide ASL translation for certain events and just generally being able to promote this. So we were thinking about the fact that if everyone who had registered had donated $25, we would have been able to support another online conference like this, reinstate our faculty grant program, and publish an issue of Dialectic. So if you are able to give, we would appreciate it, but also there's so many different ways that people can give. So if there's blog contributions that you want, or volunteering with your local chapters and maybe having more K through 12 engagement, and we're also hoping to expand international connection. So there's many ways that you can help out that aren't financial, but we also want to say we understand this might not be a time where you can give anything. Maybe you don't have the resources, mental, emotional, financial time to be giving anything extra right now. So maybe it's a time that we can be here for you. So I know over the years, AIGA and the DC and so many wonderful people have been there for me. And so I'm hoping that I'm able to give back to the community in the ways I've received.
So let's keep the momentum from this week going. That's our goal. Our conversation channels will continue to be open on Slack, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and especially through the individual connections that we will continue to make. Our YouTube channel has been populated with all of the programming from this week. Thank you, Shift team. So if you want to watch, rewatch, share any of the Shift content, it is there for you now. So once again, we want to extend a sincere thanks to AIGA National for providing funding, to the DEI for supporting us this week, to all of our behind the scenes folks, our volunteer presenters, our moderators, our facilitators, and all of you for being here this week, for your words, for your support of the DEC, and so much more. Thank you.
So thank you.